On this one, we decided to go with the 1/4 inch. We wanted to make it a little bit bigger, a little bit more pronounced, so that this maple is gonna pop out and be seen a little bit. So,
man, I don't know what to say.
You don't need to say anything.
Oh my goodness, that is gorgeous.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Wow, that is beautiful.
If you'd like to follow the process of turning a block of wood like this into a guitar like this, then you've come to the right place. And if you would like to see me give this guitar away, click subscribe, hit the bell. In an uncontrolled environment, just a really quick interjection. Couldn't resist. Had to go outside even though it's a little chilly out to start shaping the body a little bit. Hey friends, guitar enthusiasts, those who build guitars, those who play guitars, and those who just find this relaxing. Thanks for coming, checking in to Let's Build a Guitar. Today, I'm going to be working on getting this swirl cut in on the top of the horn here. But before we do that, let's flash back for a little while and we will get this put into the guitar. This is one of the most nerve-wracking parts, and I finally kind of figured out why. When you use a router, and you have the blade spin in one direction and you're kind of pulling it up, so as the blade is coming, you're kind of fighting against it. You don't want the router to take off, and so you go with the grain a certain direction, right? In the case of a swirl, you start to come around this way, and now as you come up here, your grain changes, and then when you come around this way, the grain changes again. So the direction of the grain is changing constantly, so you got to make sure to keep that router right up against that template really good and tight, and that's not easy when your router wants to take off this direction or that direction because of a grain change. You guys can go watch this fiasco of me trying to make sure that I could get this working and get it the way I wanted to. It always makes me nervous because, guys, if I screw this part up, this whole guitar is done. Woody Chili Sauce Cane, we're one step closer to getting your guitar to you. It's now time to carve in that scroll, which is really a unique piece on the front of these X Horizon guitars, similar to the Cloud style guitar used by Prince. Got to be extremely careful with this part of the carve or I can ruin everything. Don't want to do that. Back here is where the electronics cavity is going to go, and that's got to go up to a certain point so that your knobs and everything can fit in there, and that scroll work that you do can't be at the place where as you carve out that cavity that all of a sudden you cut through the scroll and you've got blank space there. So I have been using for a long time this little piece of wood that I put together a long time ago, got that scroll right so that it would work with this to go like this, and then the body kind of lines up in here, and that gives me where it needs to go on the body. And I've decided it's time to get rid of this one and make a new one, and I'm just going to use this to make the new one. And so the other day I thought, well, sure, I'll just make it out of this. This is probably 1/2 inch thick, I suppose. 1/2 inch thick piece of wood. So I carved that out, and then I started to measure and everything and looking at the bit that's got to go in there, and it was going to be too long. It would have cut all the way through. Don't want to do that. So I needed thicker wood. Needed to have it at least as thick as what this is. And so then, and this is a 1 inch piece of wood. So then today I ran to Menards quick and checking wood, and of course, you know, a 1 inch piece of wood, 1 inch thick, is not 1 inch thick. It's about 3/4 of an inch thick. Still too thin. So, tabletop. So this is a 5/4 thick, which means that it is 1 1/4 inch thick. That's going to work perfect. I am going to actually cut out more of the actual guitar body on top of it. I'm going to carve that out onto here, So I've got more of the body to just line up, and then I'll make my template out of this 5/4, and then we'll transfer it over. The other thing is, Woody and I were talking, and he wants to make sure that we get down so that you can see the maple underneath that Ziricote, so it kind of pops out. Well, typically, guys, you're gonna see me cut most of this out first because I'm usually using a router on maple, which is a really hard wood. This is just pine. It's gonna be a lot softer. Should be able to just kind of scooch it right along. Won't be a real big deal. There's a lot of things to think through with this template. I've made myself a new template so that I can put the scroll on this. I'm gonna try it on a scrap piece of wood first because there's way too much at stake for me to just do it on this right off the bat. Two things there. I think one, it's still too deep. Okay, let's try it again. Move it over somewhere here. Looks like I wore out my bearings. All right, well, the bizarre thing about that was this one actually turned out well. I mean, I'd have to sand that, but this one turned out really good. But just as I finished off here, my bearing burned out on me. So I think I'll probably just have to hit the drawing board again here and keep working at it because I don't want to do this and screw it up somehow. So this one turned out great, but I got to be able to make it turn out great every time, not just 1 out of 3 times. Keep trying. Okay, I've got this set up, ready to go on the actual guitar body itself. I've done it a few more times, and it's come out good each of those times. I'm gonna be probably even more cautious than I've been doing it, which means I'm probably gonna have a little more sanding to do in the groove because I'll probably get some burn marks in there from the bit itself. I think we're good. We'll find out. I think it is good. Woo. Okay, it's gonna take some sanding in here though. Right down in this area here, apparently I'm lifted up just a little bit from the edge, but I will take that little bit of Ziricote. You can see there's just a thin layer of Ziricote still over top of the maple there, and I will just carefully take that out. So that won't be an issue. All right, whoo! Just need to do a lot of sanding now, and it'll look pretty dang good when I'm done. And everything held together here, so should be good to go. Once I have routed this nice little paisley type of curlicue, whatever, this swirl into the body, I've done that with the router. Now I'm going to clean it up with a very small bit on the Dremel and a very steady hand. There's just no other way to do it than to, well, I should say there's no other way to use a Dremel than to do it with a very steady hand because you can do a lot of damage really quick. But for the most part, I just have to focus in, getting tight on what I'm doing. I'll get these edges cleaned up inside here, and then I'll use sandpaper and smooth all of this out, and it'll really start. There's a few little jagged edges here and there, but those will be completely gone once I use the sandpaper on it. Something that's very different about this version from what I would normally do. Normally I do an 1/8 inch curve. That's the width of the actual cutout. On this one, we decided to go with the 1/4 inch. We wanted to make it a little bit bigger, a little bit more pronounced, so that this maple is gonna pop out and be seen a little bit more clearly. Instead of putting the jack here, which is in like the original Prince Cloud guitars and stuff, the 1/4 inch jack goes in here and is kind of a part of this little swirl here. He wants it to be on the side. So we're gonna do that, and this is gonna be just done a little bit differently than what would have been on that. But you know, we're just creating art here, right? So this is our own thing. So you can see how it looks a little bit rough now. So if you're doing this on your own and it looks a little bit on the rough side as you start, don't worry. That's what sandpaper's for, and you just keep working at it till you get it right. Now that I got this somewhat carved into shape, I'll take the sander and I'm going to sand this more, and I'm going to sand this back a little bit more to reveal just a little bit more of the maple here and kind of along this edge just a little bit in here. In order to carve these scrolls, what I've drawn here is what will stay. I'm going to be removing in between that, and I just kind of know how it goes. These kind of slant in. I've gone through that before on other videos, so I don't want to repeat that over and over again. The size of the bit that I start off with is this, kind of a rounded bit that just seems to carve nice and easy there. I try to not push too hard. I just barely touch as I come around. I just start carving my way around, and then it's just by appearance. I know what it's supposed to look like, and I remove what's not supposed to be there. Now I'm going to go down to a smaller bit, which you can see, smaller bit is only about a 1/16 of an inch wide. So now I'm down to a 1/16. The other one was an 1/8 inch. Slowly getting to the finer and finer details here. I need to thin this out just a little bit, coming around this way here. Just right in this area here. Kind of needs to get thinned out just a little bit. So gotta be really careful though, because sure don't want to take too much. One of the big problems of using high-speed video and then taking little breaks is you don't actually see how long it actually takes to do this stuff. It takes a long time to sand and to carve. That would make for a very, very boring video if you just watched me the whole time. Who knows, maybe some of you would watch it. I kind of doubt it, but somebody out there is probably crazy enough to watch it.